Very clear building. Screen, I can't see that.
Good.
At this time, I want to call our regular monthly board meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Those watching live stream, welcome you. I would like to ask before we go into a moment of silence that you remember our country right now. It seems like we're going through some pretty tough times, and keep our country in our prayers. Would you please join us for a moment of silence? Thank you. This time we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, our superintendent, Dr. Gainey, will share some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Board members, just want to point out a couple things. First, I want to start by thanking the commissioners and County Manager Hal Johnson and County Finance Officer Will Massey for coming over today as we talked about budget concerns and needs for the 21-22 school year. I also want to take a moment and thank Mrs. Swaney, third grade teacher at Farmer Elementary School, Ms. Simpson, third grade teacher at Farmer Elementary School, for allowing me to read to their students on the 5th of January, which was last Tuesday. Always great to be able to interact with the students. They are by Google Meets now, but hopefully one day we'll get back to where get to visit the classrooms with the Leadership Reads program. Also want to take a moment to point out that January is School Board Appreciation Month. I want to thank all of you board members for your efforts to help our school system every day. And I also want to thank you for all your guidance and advice that you provide me along the way as we work together to continue to help the school system get better. I want to note a couple safety issues as well for our students, staff members, and parents. I've mentioned these before, but I also want to just make sure we all continue to work on these. The need for wearing cloth face coverings at all times, including after-school activities on our campuses, including athletics, as we're now having athletic events. I want to remind people, if you develop COVID-19 symptoms, please stay home, don't come to campus, and call the school. The school system will help you with next steps. If someone in your house has developed COVID-19 symptoms, please do not come to campus. Please call the school and they will help you with next steps. If you've been exposed to someone who's positive for COVID-19, please do not come to campus. Please call the school. And finally, if you've tested positive for COVID-19, again, I ask that you stay off our campuses and call. We will help you with next steps. And if you've traveled out of the country, we do need to talk with you before you come back to campus because there is a quarantine period. We need everyone's help. Our school system does. Our students need to be in school for both academic reasons and social emotional reasons. And we also need our kids to have a chance to enjoy the activities that are out there for them. We now have high school athletics in full swing. Middle school athletics are now cranking up as of the first day back from the winter break. We have other activities such as marching band and hunter safety involved, where the kids are involved now. And we need to take advantage of the time we have with our children. And so please help us as we can keep these activities going. We need everybody's help. Please remember, wear your cloth face coverings, practice social distancing, and also please follow the state's recommendations regarding issues involving gatherings in large groups. Today was day 88, and we've made it this far, and I'm very proud of the staff, and the students, and the parents, all that's happened to get us to this point, but we need to remain focused on what our primary goal is. Our primary goal is having students on campus in the environment in which they love, so they can grow in the academic arena as well as the social emotional arena. The school environment is the kids' environment that they love. They've missed their classmates, and we need to do everything we can to keep school going so that they can interact with the classmates they're with now, and hopefully we can get all their classmates back on campus at one time. I also want to take a moment to give a big thank you to Sheriff Seabold. It's no mystery if you've been following high school athletics and what will become middle school athletics as we start with the winter season. There are limits on how many people can come to inside events and limits on how many can come to outside events. And last week, Officer Brian Arrington called me, and Sheriff Seabold has put in place with his staff. They will provide for every home middle school and high school basketball and football game. They'll provide one SRO free of charge, up to 4 hours, because they're aware that without ticket sales and all, schools don't have the funds for the security that they have had in the past. So I want to say a big thank you to Sheriff Seabold if you're out there, and to all of his staff, because we have great SROs throughout this school system, and this is a tremendous level of support for our schools, and I greatly appreciate it. And board members, that concludes my comments, but that last comment I made would go a long way in helping us be able to make it through the sports seasons in the manner we need to with security. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gainey. Board members, I know this is Board of Education Month, and I wrote him a really long list of good things to say about us, and he sure did shorten it, but that's okay. I guess we'll let you get by with that one. At this time, I need a motion to approve the December 14th, 2020 minutes.
So,
All right, have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. This time, we'll move on to the recognitions. Tim Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. And good evening to you, to all the board members, to Dr. Gainey, and to everyone viewing this meeting via live stream. We do want to begin our time of recognitions. First up, 12th grader Addie Pendry of Trinity High School is one of only 5 students representing North Carolina in the national pool of candidates for the 2020-2021 U.S. Presidential Scholars in Career and Technical Education. Addie's CTE teacher at Trinity High School is Riley Grubb. Addie has been invited to apply directly to the Commission on Presidential Scholars in January, and the Commission on Presidential Scholars will announce the National Scholars in May 2021. The U.S. Presidential Scholars Program was established in 1964 by executive order of the President to recognize and honor some of our nation's most distinguished graduating high school seniors. And in 1979, the program was extended to recognize students who demonstrate exceptional talent in the visual and creative and performing arts. And then in 2015, the program was again extended to recognize students who demonstrate ability and accomplishment in career and technical education fields. And this, of course, is Addie's field. So each year, up to 161 students are named as Presidential Scholars, and it is indeed one of the nation's highest honors for high school students. So Addie Pendry, if you would please come forward to receive a Pride in RCSS certificate from their school system, and we will be rooting for you in the national competition. All right, next up. Sarah Remery is a 4th grade teacher at Trindale Elementary School and has been selected as one of the 3 from North Carolina to go to the national level for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. The Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching are the highest honors bestowed by the United States government specifically for K-12 science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and/or computer science teaching. The awards were established by Congress in 1983. The President may recognize up to 108 exemplary teachers each year. Awards are given to science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and/or computer science teachers from each of the 50 states. The award recognizes teachers who have deep content knowledge of the subjects they teach and the ability to motivate and enable students to be successful in those areas. Since the program's inception, more than 5,000 teachers have been recognized for their contributions in the classroom and to their profession. The awardees reflect the expertise and dedication of the nation's teaching corps, and they demonstrate the positive impact of excellence teachers on student achievement. And the overall winners are expected to be announced in the summer of 2021. So, Mrs. Remery, I was going to ask you to come forward. Looks like you're already forward, which is fine, to receive your Pride in RCSS certificate, and we will be rooting for you with a national competition. Well done, and thank you.
Thank you, Tim. This time we do have someone signed up for public comments. I think it's going to be over video. It's Laura Heflin.
Trina, it's open in that tab next to the agenda. There you go.
Hi, this is Laura Heflin, 5th grade teacher at Trinity Elementary School. I'm making this video because I am very concerned about the spread of coronavirus in our county, and I want to know what the board is going to do to further protect students and staff of the Randolph County school system. The latest data I could find was that Randolph County has a 18.5% positivity rate, and we are very much in the red. I have watched board meetings all year long, and at the beginning of the school year, you know, we were talking about over 5% was bad. We're at 18.5%. I'm very concerned that we have not changed any of our procedures we have in place to make them better, to keep us safer. For example, in the mornings when staff and students both enter the building, we all have to get our temperature checked. But right now, in the winter months, everybody's coming in with cold skin, and we're using the forehead scanners, and half the time, the reading is so low it doesn't even give a number, it says low. I've even had it read 86.4 as my temperature. So how is that going to catch anybody that actually has a fever? I know we ask students and staff those symptoms questions every day, but in the elementary setting, especially with the young ones, you know, they're not answering them correctly. As a 5th grade teacher, most of my students are going to answer them correctly, but I've had several instances where I've had a 5th grader removed from my room mid-morning, around lunchtime, because they find out that the younger sibling, has come to school and that they actually, you know, had been out with symptoms, but they weren't vocal about it, and their parents were not vocal about it to the principals. So, as you know, details emerge as their teachers teaching them, and they found out, oh, Johnny, you had diarrhea yesterday? Well, then you shouldn't be here. That's happening in the elementary schools. I'm also concerned with the masks we're allowing. A lot of our students are wearing the gator masks, which is a problem for several reasons. Number one, they don't stay on their nose. They are always sliding down, so most of the time the gator's right here around their neck, not doing any good protecting anybody. But also there is so much data out there showing that the gator masks do not contain your spit, your germs, as well as other masks. And the schools were provided by the state with those white cloth masks that have better data, that those do protect us better. So I don't understand why students are still being allowed to wear the gator masks, as there's a lot of data showing that that's just not good coverage. I understand that our school system is following guidance from the health department and from the CDC guidelines, but to be devil's advocate, those departments are not in our schools. They are not seeing firsthand how these guidelines are working out, like the temperature checks in wintertime, okay? So I would really encourage the board to think hard about what can be done to better keep our staff and our students safe as the numbers go up and up and up and up. And in elementary schools, we're back 100%. I teach 3 blocks. One of my blocks, we have 21 students in a room. You cannot space them out 6 feet. This class is also the class I eat lunch with, so 22 mouths, no masks, open, spewing spit in my small classroom every day for lunchtime. So I would just encourage the board, again, please, 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 please think about our health and our safety. Thank you.
I assume we'll continue to maybe look at new ways or just make sure we're on top of things the best we can. Are they all still eating in the classrooms?
What about the statement that the mask, I understand we don't have unlimited masks provided by the state, we had a allotment that we gave, is that correct?
We're not in need of masks. We have, remember we had a big donation of masks back in, I'd have to look to see where we are with that.
We have plenty to offer.
Last I knew, we didn't have a problem with masks, no. But I'll check, because in fact today when we were meeting as leadership team, Dale had brought it up on something Greg Brewer had asked about, and we were talking about PPE stuff, and Dale said, Todd said, I don't think we've ordered masks in a while, or we have a need for masks, it was something else. But we'll definitely check, make sure we have enough masks. If the principal needs masks, they just need to let us know.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. And what, you spoke about the temperature check, and is there any better way? I'm not a nurse or is there a better way of doing it other than skin check?
Well, I think one of the things you have to look at too is we're asking a lot of people to do things that they probably never dreamed they'd be doing in this role. And we are doing the best we can with the temperature checks. We can spend as much as we want to on devices to check temperatures. But ironically, there has been some question, and in the superintendent meeting I was in early December, there was some comments about whether temperature checks were going to be continued to be required, and that stopped. It was not from us, it was from the health officials that came onto the meeting. I've not heard it since, but I surely don't want that to go away, because between the symptom screeners and the temperature checks and the people helping us with information, I think we're getting a hold of situations we need to get to as quick as we can. So I don't think there's one thing that's going to fix it all. So
Well,
continue to
when
work
I
at
took
it.
my parents to the doctor, and my daughter, different ones to check it, they use the same kind of screening. They use the same temperature checks that we're using.
And we expanded, I can't remember when it was, but I did I think on one of my phone messages, I put when we expanded the screener, we added the extra symptoms to it. So we've expanded that too. So we'll just keep working at it as best we can.
You're going to have situations where, honestly, they've done pretty well, like parents and all people have really been more upfront than I thought they would on things. But you're going to have some situations where they try to cover up and trick you. I know I had a school the other day where they told me a parent came in and let a kid out, and come to find out the parent was positive. They're going to trick you from time to time, unfortunately.
But if we had not had the parents helping us like they have this year, we would have been really in the mess. The parents have really
Parents have been pretty
shared a
honest.
lot of information. So
Excuse me. On the mask thing, I know we mandated, masks and all, but we never, did we ever set anything on what kind of mask? Because I know these gator masks they're wearing, it came out as soon as people started wearing them. They did a study on them at Duke University and spent a whole $100 to do the study. And they showed these gator masks are not effective. And they actually help spread it. They break down the particles they breathe out. Was there any guideline on what masks they should wear?
no, we just went with cloth face coverings. hoping to get as, there was the situation where someone may have and some limited reasons, someone may not wear one, but we've had very little of that, and we just really went with cloth face coverings.
Dr. Gaines, do you think they could take their temperature on their wrist? The reason I say that is that area will be more covered in the wintertime than their forehead. Because I know where I go to get tested, to go visit customers, they check my wrist.
Really? I hadn't thought about it.
I have had my hand checked, top of my head.
We'll look at that. I hadn't thought about it.
We can ask the health department.
The good and bad of that, because I'm checking temperatures every day with the kids in hats. They know now to take those hats off before they ever get close to me because a hat can increase their temperature 2 to 3 degrees.
In these forehead thermometers, these infrared thermometers, when I had COVID, the morning I've had it, I'd check it one time, it'd be 97, check it again, it'd be 97, check it again, it was 100, check it again, it was 97, check it again, it was 101. We're just relying.
Some people are not even getting a temperature at all with COVID.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just relying on what we have, and that's what people got to realize. I mean, yes, they make things you can put at the door, scans your whole body, but the school system won't have the money to buy $50,000 piece of equipment for every school and every door.
Well, and, there are all the hand sanitizer dispensers that were out immediately, and our guys took some old desk and cut the circle out and put the jug in the middle. We bought the real cheap sprayer, and we could have spent a fortune on all the hand sanitizer apparatus, and then once they break, then here we go again. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things that help us find the case. And it's, you go a couple weeks, you don't hear of the person that has it without symptoms. And then we go a week and we have one I see, it might be 3 or 4 in a row that it's a non-symptom person that's got it. So I think it's a conglomerate of things hoping to get us to the
I know a lot of
situation.
folks that are screeners at different schools, and Mr. St. Clair and different ones that didn't know that, but I think they take that job very seriously. I mean, they put people out there that are super responsible, not that all of them are not, but they're taking it seriously, yeah.
I mean, there is, my thing is on the whole mask thing, we got these masks, we got them from the state. I mean, if we can look at some documentation from somebody versus, your 3-ply and 4-ply masks versus your gator mask. I mean, that would, if we got those masks, and I know the kids wants to wear their gators with their designs and all, but let's face facts. We got to protect our staff and the kids there, and that's something we might want to look at. I mean, that's something cheap that we might can help address the issue. I know kids won't have their individual personalities, but hey, we're in a different time and thing. I mean, we got these masks we got from day one, and if it's something might help just a little bit, we can say, hey, yeah, you don't like it, we're making you wear these, but this is what we're doing to protect people. And that's what our job is. I mean, we used to worry about protecting our kids from terrorists. Now we got COVID, that's a silent terrorist. So.
You know, when our teachers, I've heard soon.
We were originally, the first thing I heard was end of January, different timetables, and it popped up. We've jumped up into the priority educators have. So we're not far off. I'm not privy to all the information on that, but I did originally look like the end of January, then it seemed to bump up towards the middle of January. So I hope we'll start learning something soon.
How are you gonna handle if they refuse to take it?
Well, there's not a requirement right now that they have to take it. There's not a requirement right now that students have to take it. Now, I know there'll be, as Elizabeth's sitting here, there'll be plenty of discussion in Raleigh, probably in the legislature, as things come up with statutory requirements, as we have the list of shots and vaccinations students have to have before they come to school, and same thing with employees. But What obviously, I know, it's gonna have to be a discussion, I anticipate it being a discussion, but right now, that we don't have any, that we know, we can't require it of
Well, it's
for staff.
just premature to discuss
You
it.
know, I'm against
Whether you can or
mandates.
can't is a separate question, but it is premature since they aren't even here yet.
I mean, right now, my son's in the military, right now, they're not mandating.
Yeah, I'm against that totally. I wouldn't say that, forcing someone to take that fire, you know, against that totally.
I do have one more question. When that teacher was talking about having lunch in the classroom, like 4th and 5th grade, where you have so many students. This is probably a big no answer, but would it make more sense, like if you took a couple classes, I mean, the teacher would have to do it, you know, make sure they scattered out and let them eat in the cafeteria, where you wouldn't be right together, or is that?
Well, what you're bringing on is additional cleaning that we probably don't have, we won't be able to keep up with. That's the.
So to clean a couple tables, I mean, you have to clean it in the class, I mean.
Well,
It just looks to me like that would be better if you had like 2 or 3 tables and you worked out a plan. I mean, I get it. If you got 21 kids in the classroom, that classroom's full, and I mean, they're eating right on top of each other. I mean, I don't know. Just, of course, we don't have any cafeteria staff hardly either, do we? We have like, what, 3? You're down to 3. You used to have 7 or 8. I've never understood how 3, honestly, my heart's out to those people, because I don't know where it got to that point, but I don't understand how 2 or 3 people can feed 500 or 600 kids. Somehow they do it.
It's impossible.
I mean, it's really a load. I mean, do they bring the, yeah, I'm telling you, and like you said earlier today, you want, trying to do something for them, that's a lot of work, you know? Then you leave the end of the day, you have to go out and ride the bus or something. I mean, that's tough deal. I don't know how we got so low on employees there. I mean, when I was in school, we had 7 or 8.
It's contingent on, contingent on number of meals and all served, it's not number of kids in the school. And so, you know, anytime you have to shut the line down because it's because of your number of meals, it's not, because that's what's generated. Remember, they're a self-supporting program. We don't.
Are we feeding the whole school free now? Didn't I hear that? They're all year we've been.
But we're not serving that many meals. I don't know, I'd have to go back and
But
look.
we're feeding them free though, right?
I'd have to go back, I don't remember what that was.
Seemed like I heard that.
Like, that sounds right.
So I'm thinking you got the option for everybody to eat. I don't know, it's like, so kids are coming not eating? Yeah. It's just-
Funding and child nutrition is based on the number of meals served, and that's what generates the amount of staff. So whether it was a free or not free option, is still, we get a reimbursed rate based on whether for every free lunch served, reduced lunch served, and full price lunch served, and that's what drives your staffing ability. You know, when at the school times when we've had to shut a line down at a school, people don't want to have 1 line instead of 2 serving lines, but it's reflective on the number of meals being served at that school. If you have 600 kids and 200 of them are eating out of the cafeteria versus 400, that's going to impact your staffing. So I can't remember, this top of my head, I don't remember what the free lunch rule was, but it still would go back to how many lunches are actually being served and how many breakfasts are being served. So because there's a reimbursement rate there, which is what generates their revenue. That's what was difficult about last spring when we were out of school. We were so much reduced in how many meals were being served. That's why even, you know, having the feeding sites, that wasn't anywhere near keeping up with what would have been served in regular times. And so that makes a big difference. And that's kind of a hidden budget issue that was kind of going under the radar across the state.
You you know, when we were doing those meals, which was great, people need them and all that. But I guess it was last week or a week or so ago, I noticed on social media where someone had a picture of several items that the date was about running out of. Said they were wanting to give them away. They said, I've been picking up our free meals and everything at school, and the date's about to run out. And I'm thinking, you know what, it's great. It's just a great thing that people, it just ticks me off when they get into the hands where the people that really don't need it. It's meant for people that need it, people that are struggling. I know it's always going to be that way, you know, and I'm not the one to judge, but it's a sore spot for me. Just saying, God's sakes, if you don't need it, don't take it. Just lost focus, didn't I? Okay. How in the world did we get to where did we get to that? So we need a motion, the public comment led to that. So now we need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move on to Dr. Gainey and information items.
Okay, board members, I have several gifts tonight to present to you. All of them are information items because all of them are $5,000 or less, so board policy, I've already accepted them. The first gift is from Central Recycling LLC to Hopewell Elementary School in the amount of $100 to be used for the Hopewell Christmas Assistance Program for students and families. And I have a letter dated from November 13 from Aaron Barr. I received this information on the 9th of December, so I bring that to you as an information item. Another gift from Hopewell Elementary School, letter dated October 21. I received information on December 9th from Hopewell, and this gift is from Hannah Leonard. $100, in the amount of $100 to be used for the kindergarten students and honeycomb daycare students to participate in the school's fall pumpkin activities. And then third gift from Hopewell Elementary School, received, it came to my office on the 9th of December, and there's a letter dated December 7th by Aaron Barr to J.P. Thomas and Company in the amount of $150. And it was for Cameron Leach, a 5th grade student who finished in 3rd place in the company's 2020 holiday card contest. Moving away from Hopewell, get into Randall Elementary School, had a gift. I received information on that on the 11th of December from Ashley Barr, principal of Randall Elementary School. New Market Superintendents Club gave the school a gift in the amount of $250 to be used for Christmas assistance for families. And then on the 11th of December, Melanie Ritchie also made me aware of an anonymous donor who gave the school at Randall Middle School a gift in the amount of $2,500 to be used to support the academic needs and cultural needs of the school students and staff members. And then the final gift I have for you tonight, I received last week from Angela Harris, Ramsey Elementary School, from Tower Components Incorporated in Ramsey in the amount of $350. It's to be used for technology at the school. So board members, I bring you that. There's 6 gifts in total, and I bring those to you tonight as information items, and I want to say thank you to all the individuals and groups that provided those gifts for our schools. Thanks to the principal for making us aware of those.
Thanks, Dr. Gainey. This time we'll move on to finance and budget with Todd Lowe.
Okay, good evening, board members. Tonight, I would like to present the second quarter finance and budget update. And we'll stick with our normal our regular format. So we'll look at state budget, current expense budget, AT tax budget, charter school enrollment, cash balances, and then the areas to watch for the next quarter. So we'll start with the state budget. As of the end of the first quarter, the end of September, our state allotments total 106,587,279, 106.5 million. At the end of the second quarter, we had increased to 108.3 million, so that's a $1.7 million increase. The main areas of increase: EC programs, transportation, CTE program, money for principal bonuses, and CRF programs, coronavirus relief programs, and we're going to talk more about those a little bit later. Our main decrease during the second quarter was this charter school reduction, and we'll touch on that also. So if we go inside the state budget for a second, we'll look at the transportation allotment. So at the end of the first quarter, we stood at $3.9 million on our allotment. We always receive, well, typically we receive our second transportation allotment in the second quarter, and we did this year. That brought our total at the end of December, or the end of the second quarter, up to $4.8 million. So we had a net increase of $939,689 during that second quarter. Like I said, that second installment of the transportation funding. So when we look back, I think this is interesting, when we look back a year ago this time, at the end of December of 2019, we were at $4,853,040. So basically a $238 difference between last year and this year. So the $4.8 million, we're going to see some increases in the third and fourth quarters like we normally do for early college reimbursement and highway use tax, but the $4.8 million, give or take 50,000 here or there, is going to be our allotment for the year in transportation, which, like I said, is going to pretty much mirror the same numbers as last year. So that's the revenue on the state transportation. So let's look at the expense for a second. Second quarter expense was $1.2 million. That brought the year-to-date expense to just over $2 million, $2,063,702. Once again, if we look back a year ago, at this time, we were sitting at an expense of $2.3 million. So there's a decrease of $254,000 compared to last year at this time, which does make sense in terms of the schedule that we've been on since August, since the fall. And because of that, as long as we continue with the schedule that we're currently in, we would project the expenses to be under budget for this school year. If all things were equal, you could pretty much double that 254 number. So that's potentially how much we'll come in under budget on the state transportation. That's definitely an area to watch as we move forward. The coronavirus relief fund, CRF, okay. So we touched on these in the first quarter. And so these 11 state programs, basically totaling $3.4 million for the Randolph County School System. They were originally set to expire at the end of December, this December. That changed at the last minute. Originally, the $3.4 million was broken down into 11 different programs that you see here: summer learning, school health support, non-digital resources, student computers, the school nutrition program, personnel computers, home and community Wi-Fi, exceptional children program, an additional low wealth program, okay, as a supplement to our normal low wealth program, cybersecurity, and PPE. Originally, we had to spend the money that way. So basically, in early December, after some back and forth with the NC Pro office, they did allow us to transfer money from one CRF program to another, which was a tremendous help for us because we were set, as I mentioned in the first quarter, we were set to revert some money in some of those programs just because, take for example the summer learning program. We serviced the kids that showed up during the summer, but we didn't use all the money. Yes.
I got this one question, is how do we, if you scroll back down there on the, how is that allocated, like the home community Wi-Fi? Do we get with a cable provider, and we see a need, and they do a form?
Under the home and community Wi-Fi, we actually bought hotspots. And basically, we also increased, I believe we increased our capacity to have what we call park and learn. Go to a school parking lot and have that Wi-Fi access.
Awesome, okay. Got it,
We
how that works.
Sheena, we bought 400 hotspots with service, and then we received another 800 with a year service from Raleigh that we didn't have to pay for.
That's awesome, I didn't know that, that was a lot of paperwork, so it's pretty simple.
And we've been, Sheena's group has been working with schools to get those out as needed, so.
Great.
be shocked.
Sheena might not say it was pretty simple, but I'll say it was pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the interesting thing about this money, we were supposed to, have to spend it in those specific areas. And of course, we were going to revert money because some of those areas were very, very specific, and we couldn't even find the people to hire. That money was set to expire at the end of December. That also got extended. So, but anyway, long story short, like I said here, the transfers gave us the flexibility needed to prevent any reversion of funds. So we spent all this money down to about $3.68 out of $3.4 million. That was just because of some pennies here. Yes.
And I want to just say something about Todd and his staff and Sheena. Todd, you said he got extended past December 31st, but we operated the whole month of December being told December 31st was the deadline. So Todd Lowe and Sheena made sure that our stuff was ready before December 31st. It would have been nice to know the extension was coming again, would have not, but we weren't going to leave any of that money up to be reverted. So December was a pretty interesting month around here when they took some of the rules off the money and we had more flexibility to use it because we really went after a lot of technology.
Yeah, thank you to Sheena, to Brooke Johnston, Kelly Green. There were quite a few that were involved in making sure we maximized that money. We used a lot of the remaining money on Chromebooks, laptops, desktops, calculators, web cameras, interactive panels, and different softwares and subscriptions. So it ended up working out very well for us. December turned into kind of a mini end of the year closeout because, like I said, $3.4 million had to be closed out, and we did not realize we were going to get the flexibility until the beginning of December. And I'm glad we got the flexibility. It would have been nice to have gotten it earlier, of course, but we came together and pulled together, and I'm proud of what we did for the school system with those dollars. So right now, the state money's gone for COVID. Currently, we still have federal care, what I call federal CARES money, that's PRC 163, but we're getting ready to receive 2 more federal allotments in the next month or 2 probably. And then later on, at some point, I don't have a timeline yet, we're going to receive some more federal COVID money. But for now, we're done with the state piece. Okay. One final slide on the state budget before we move on. The charter school reduction, I mentioned that for our one decrease basically during the second quarter of the state programs. So the charter school reduction this year was $238,331, and the 13 programs that it hit were classroom teachers, non-instructional support, instructional support, both CTE programs, months and dollars, the DSSF funding program, TAs, low wealth AIG transportation, supplies, materials at risk, and textbooks. So you see it hits a lot of the state programs, and we lost $238,331 back to the state. And just to remind you, that's the additional charter school, what they call the charter school growth. It's really not growth on us because those are the kids that are leaving us and going to charter schools, but it's charter school growth on the charter schools end. And it's those additional students that you lose. And that's the state money going back to the state to be allocated to the charter schools. All right, we'll switch gears to the current expense budget. All right, so as a refresher, the 2021 current expense budget, that's Funds 2 and Fund 8, $24.5 million. So the overall expense for the second quarter was $8.7 million, or almost 36% of our budget. The reason it's so high is because of the local supplements paid out in November, and it falls in the second quarter. Brings our year-to-date expense $13.1 million, so just over half, but once again, that's typical because we're paying out a lot of local supplement money in the month of November. If we go inside the current expense budget and look at the energy expense, in the second quarter, $620,840 sounds like a lot of money, but overall that's not. As you see, it's only 17.6% of that budget, and if you use 25% as your gauge for most of these line items that I'll talk about line up pretty good with that 25, 25, 25, 25. So 17.6 is pretty low. But think about, we've got some of our milder weather in the second quarter. October and sometimes a lot of times in November, we're still pretty mild. So that helps us out there. Year-to-date energy comes in at 1.3 on the expense side. So we're well under budget on that, so that's good at 39% of our budget if we use 50% as the gauge. Second quarter charter school expense, $327,241, 19.6% of our budget. Overall, so far year to date, $742,000. So we're at less than half of our charter school expense budget, which is also a good thing. So we're looking pretty good on those two areas. We'll shift gears to the revenue side. Once again, budgeted revenues are that same number, $24.5 million. Second quarter revenue came in at $5.9 million. That brings the year-to-date revenue to $11.5. So now we're looking at, we're a little less than 50%, which while that's good on the expense side, that's not good on the revenue side. So we're about 3% under where we typically should be. And inside that revenue number, one area that is a concern at this point, second quarter on fines and forfeitures came in at almost $229,000, about 20% of the budget. Year-to-date fines and forfeitures revenue is about $406,000, so we are well under at 35%. We saw that trending down at the end of last year, and if we look at going back a year ago, 12/31/19, we were sitting there at $499,000, almost $500,000. So we're over $93,000 less in fines and forfeitures revenue than we were. So we'll definitely have to continue to watch that, and I'll update you again on that in the third quarter. Let's take a glance at the AT tax budget. Their budget this year is $2,348,300. Second quarter expense was $560,611, almost 24% of the budget. Year-to-date expense comes in at $904,854, so they're well under that 50% mark at 38.5%. In the month of December, 50% of that principal and AP supplement was paid out. The rest of their supplements don't occur until the spring. So in April, the principals and APs get the other half, and then the classified certified. So the AT tax budget, while you're sitting there at 38.5% on the expense side, they still have some pretty big payouts coming in the spring with their supplements. Second quarter revenue for the AT tax budget was $331,999, 14% of the budget. That brings the year-to-date revenue to $1.9 million. So if you look at that $1.9 million compared to the total budget of $2.3 million, that's 81% already brought in, but a large portion of that tax revenue hits the books in September. Charter school enrollment. Last year we ended with 1,279 Randolph County schools attending 16 charters and the 2 virtual charters. The current enrollment is 1,321. We have 15 charters that have reported numbers. I assume that's all of them at this point, and then the same 2 virtual charters that were approved at the state level. Current increase of 42 students over last year, and then this just breaks down. You are a charter, 1,071 kids currently, and these numbers do fluctuate from month to month. But that was up 23 from last year. And then the 2 virtual academies total 47 students, which is 7 more than last year. The average cost fluctuates a little bit because we're doing it exactly on the fines and forfeitures that come in each month. So $1,342 is the average cost at this point, and the $790 per student for the virtual charter is set in legislation. That number doesn't change. And cash balances at the end of December, current expense sets at $3.5 million. That's down from the first quarter, but once again, we paid out the supplements in November in the second quarter, so that always will bring that number down. Capital outlay, $558,000. AT tax, a little over $2 million. And child nutrition, $3.7 million. And child nutrition, of course, is down, and we've talked about, we've scratched the surface on some of the child nutrition financial issues with lack of participation. And once again, the catch does fluctuate throughout the year based on revenues and expenses. So a few things I want to look at in the next update. I mentioned the coronavirus funding from the federal programs. That should be coming in a few months. We'll keep an eye on the energy expense, which, don't have too much control over that, and a lot of that's determined by the weather. I think our schools and our facilities do a good job on being efficient with our energy. Transportation expense, we'll see if that continues to stay on the track that it's on. And then fines and forfeitures revenue, as we mentioned, see what the third quarter looks like there. And one thing I do want to do in the third quarter is dive into the school nutrition financial piece and give you some more details on how they ended the year last year and how things have looked so far this year. I was planning on getting into that in the second quarter, but with the board meeting being a little bit earlier in January, didn't really have all the information from a closeout that I needed. So we'll talk about that in detail in the third quarter and let you know where they stand at that point.
Todd, does Jill and Elizabeth still do they handle the fines and forfeitures, or is that Will Wood?
No, we don't.
Yeah,
That's still on Will Wood.
Any questions? Any other questions?
I got a question on the on transportation.
Yes.
So when, which right now you said we're trending where we're going to have a little bit of surplus there. First of all, as far as if we do end up with surplus, does that go back in, that funds for next year's?
Well,
or does it go to general fund? How does that?
It's with transportation. It's a little different because from year to year on your state transportation allotment, it's based on a formula that includes what you spent the previous year. I think we've talked about that before, and we've had many conversations in this room to where we're spending all this local money in transportation because we were so short on the state side. And I'd say, well, we're supposed to get credit for that for the following year, and we do. You get credit for it, but then you still have to run the allotment through the efficiency ratings and things like that. So what'll happen? So let's just say we have a surplus, or it looks come late spring, it looks like we're going to have a surplus. We can do a couple different things. We can transfer money out of that program, or we can keep the money in the program and buy some maybe needed equipment that Wendy may need. Either way, here's the thing. Either way, we would not get credit for that in the formula for next year. So in other words, if we have $300,000 left over, whatever, and Wendy says, hey, I need a new lift, I need this or whatever, that's fine, we can use it, it's an eligible expenditure, but they don't look at that as saying, you didn't need that to operate your bus. Technically, I could argue that we did, but the state DPI would look at that and say, you didn't really need that for your yellow bus transportation this year, so we're going to pull that $300,000 expenditure out of the mix when we calculate your allotment.
So how do you foresee, as far as the systems who do not have kids going, they're not busing kids to school, and how is that going to, I understand we're going to care about Randolph County to a point.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Makes you wonder if they're gonna come and take it back.
Yeah, I mean, you can't use that form on, when you have, how the state will base that on their numbers when they didn't
Yeah.
make kids?
Yeah, that is a good question, and I have no idea how they're planning to spend their money. Like I said, they could probably come up with several different ways, yeah, but once again, I would assume that the state's gonna have to do some type of hold harmless at some point. Because if not, those school systems that haven't been in school yet, then let's say they came back second semester, well, they're looking at probably less than half of the expenditures they've had in any given year. And if we get into a normal operation next year, statewide, then they couldn't make it. So there'll have to be some type of exceptions. But yeah, that's a good question. I hadn't really thought about other school systems, about what they're doing, the ones that aren't transporting kids. But and here's the other thing: they could be using some of that money to do some meal delivery also. But once again, I'm not sure how that would play into the formula. Did you want to?
Yeah, one thing, Mr. Burgess, too, when you hear the way it works, so if we had an extra state money and Todd said, well, that's less local money we put in, then that would hurt us because it would be less local money we used. So when they factored the formula, it could hurt us. It's a very nebulous whole process, and I still contend we're not funded for the size of this county and the number of miles we drive. And let's take away this year. Let's talk about regular years. We drive Charlotte-Mecklenburg miles. We just don't pick up a child every 5 feet. Or I say that because the last system I was in, literally it seemed like there was an elementary school in every street corner. And so, but miles on buses and gas tanks adds up, regardless of your ridership. So I still believe that the formula is not. It needs to be reviewed and needs to be adjusted because it's not accurate. But there's always a slide to this. Either way you look, it's not a surplus. Is probably not going to get us ahead as much as it is a surplus keeps us from spending, or down the road coming even is probably the best we can ever do.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
And next up is Ashworth.
I will tell you one more thing that I have a worry about. Some of you have been on the board a while and you know this. I do worry about all this relief money coming and how the state budget comes out next year. I hope that we don't have parts of the state budget that are reduced down because of relief money. But I do worry about that because this is not recurring money. This is one-time money. And so that'll be something that I think all of us will be watching as time moves forward.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Gainey. Tonight, I bring to you the student assignment report for the second quarter. As a reminder, this is a reflection of the assignments, reassignments, and admissions to our school system through the second quarter. If you look at that document, you see a reflection to the right column of a net gain or loss per school for our system. More specifically, I'd like for you to notice the lower right-hand corner, which reflects a -36 for our current school year. I will remind you that it's important to note that this number started at a -153 in 14-15. Last year, the number at this time was a -51. So we are in a little lower than we were in the past. Also, as you look at that report, notice the column that says percent capacity. Just want to draw your attention to the two that are highlighted in red. Those represent schools that are already at capacity of 95% or higher. As a reminder, by our procedures, any request for reassignment or admission to those schools would not be honored at this time. And there's also two schools that are highlighted in yellow that we'll continue to keep a watch on because they're getting close to the 95%. So we'll continue to monitor all of those schools as we enter into our reassignment window, which is quickly approaching. Do you have any questions specifically for this document?
And I want to say to the board, back board members that were, when we put those rules back in 14 and 15, some of you remember that, we didn't have anything in place. So that's a big difference. We were losing, way back then, 153 more kids out of the system to go to other systems than we were having in, and it was simply because we didn't have processes in place, and we have, and I want to say thank you to board members who saw to help get those in and continued support them over the time, because when 153 students are walking out of your system, that's taking state money, and that's taking state money with you, and it's impacting you big time because your enrollment's going down, which drives your funding, and someone else's is going up. So that continues to be a big mark in our work together as a board and staff.
You know, when I look at this, I think back a few years ago, and it's not because of really growth in that area, because there is none. But it's about probably the right fit. And I look at Trindale. Trindale, several years ago, gosh, when I first came on this board, and for several years at Trindale School, it was like, man, I thought we were going to have to close the place. I mean, you had 220, 230.
295.
Yeah, and I mean, it had gone up a little bit when you were here. But that's because kids didn't want to go to Trindale School, I'll just be honest with you, because the right person wasn't in the bus, driving the bus. It makes such a difference if you got the right fit for the school. So this is a compliment. When I see people wearing T-shirts that says it's a great day at the Dale, or they're saying, and that's pretty cool, because I was here when they wouldn't wear those shirts, but it makes me happy when I look down and see they're up to 366. And you know what, that's big. That's a big deal for them, so good job, guys.
Are all those total units, 21 or units, all those being used for students? Or at least the majority of them?
Yes, the problem we have there is we cannot build anything else permanent. We cannot, because of impervious soil, we cannot build anything else at Randall High School permanent without acquiring more soil, more land, excuse me. So those 21 trailers, I would say, if they're not used, I don't know which ones wouldn't be, but they're there. And you see Randall stayed up there all this time in capacity as far as their fill rate. Now remember, that percentage does not include trailer seats. When we talk about a capacity of a school, it's the permanent seats. So if we ever can add on to Randall High School and get the trailers off, we'll have to purchase land to do that. And so if we won't be able to do anything else. Our mobile units have come down. We own 67. Last I looked, we own 67 of the mobile units. So the balance of what's coming off the books are the least, and it takes a lot. When I first got here, you could lease a trailer for $4,300 a year, and now you lease a trailer for $11,000 a year. So remember when we were worried about K-3 class size rule coming through, and that would create some need for trailers. I mean, you could move and set one up for $1,850. Now to move and set one up is $4,980. That business has really boomed. So for us to get the leased ones off, my first year here, we had 108 trailers total, and now we're down to what, 87 in Winham? It was 80 in Winham. Found 3 the other day in the count, so we've got it to 87. So the sooner we can get the leased trailers off the books, the better.
When you open Trinity Middle School, you're going to lose 12 trailers. 12 more. 6 are still Trinity Middle and 6 at Braxton. That'll be 12 at one time to go away.
That'll pick up, back in years back, I'd have to look back and do the math on it, but it'll be helpful. The problem's gonna be which ones of those are leased versus owned. I don't know the lay of the land on the ones on that campus. So moving around, it may take us a little bit of time to move, if it's an owned one, to replace it with a leased one somewhere else and get that one out of the system.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Before Brian makes this motion to go into closed session, if, and I'll ask Elizabeth this, it's just to discuss personnel matters, if you need to mention something about a student, do we need to add that?
Yeah, if you're gonna discuss student matters, those are also confidential, and that should be included.
I
in
just
the
want to
motion.
make one comment with the student, if you don't mind. It's important. Can you just add, like, where you say, discuss certified personnel and student matters? Is that?
Yeah, so where it says just to discuss confidential personnel matters, just say and student matters protected by federal and
Yeah.
state law.
Okay. I think that's good. I move that the Randolph County Board of Education will enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute to preserve the attorney-client privilege to discuss confidential personnel matters and student matters protected by North Carolina General Statute.
Can we have the motion to go into closed session? We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're in closed session.
Go for it.
All right. We need a motion to approve the certified personnel report. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We need a motion to approve the classified personnel report.
Move.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we need a motion to accept the salary recommendation by the superintendent.
Move.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move.
Second, third. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.